Greetings, incoming sixth grade families to Traweek Middle School. My name is Dr. Matthew Kodama, and I have the privilege of being the principal at Traweek Middle School. I also have the privilege of welcoming you back to school for the 2020-2021 school year. Now, as an editorial note, this meeting was originally recorded on the evening of Wednesday, August 12th. But due to technical difficulties, it's been required for me to re-record our presentation. But before I begin, I would very much like to thank all of the parents. We had over 130 in the audience who took time on Wednesday evening to log in and listen to this presentation. I'm hoping that this will help clarify any misunderstandings going into our current distance learning phase, as well as adequately prepare you for attending Traweek virtually this year. So without further ado, let me begin. Our theme for this year is "We'll Be There for You." We can't emphasize that enough during our initial distance learning phase. I can tell you that in conversations with all of our teachers, staff members, families, everyone since March of last year has really missed attending school. And I can tell you that everyone who's been teaching either online or coming to campus to take care of business, we've all spent time in discussion about how much we miss our kids and our families. And so we truly want you to know that we are here for you during this distance learning phase, just in a different form than what many of you may have been used to. So next up, I'd like to talk to you about why I'm so excited that you've chosen to send your child to Traweek for their middle school experience. So at Traweek, we're proud to offer our students a comprehensive program of science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, or STEAM. We do this because we know that students who develop skills or interests in those areas will have access to greater opportunities in high school, college, the military, or in the world of work, and throughout the rest of their lives. In addition to our unique programs on campus, we've also been awarded several distinctions. We are a nationally recognized school to watch, as well as receiving recognition from the California Department of Education as a taking center stage schools to watch for the state of California. In addition, we are a California Distinguished School, and for the past 4 years, we've been designated as an honor roll school for all of the academic achievement that our students have demonstrated throughout an analysis of both our standardized test scores and the programs that we offer. For this year, we have an exciting development that sixth graders, many of them, will have an opportunity to participate in. We have just been awarded a grant from the Verizon Corporation in partnership with Arizona State University. It's called an Innovative Learning Grant, and our particular learning grant is around immersive media, otherwise known as learning more about virtual or augmented reality. It's truly an emerging technology, and we're excited to see what our kids will do when they learn the fundamentals of how to operate within that environment, as well as to create those environments. We're well known in our community as a district, and also as Traweek, as placing a high emphasis on computer science. In the Covina Valley Unified School District, all students from transitional kinder through 12th grade learn computer science or computer coding almost as if you would teach a second language. Again, we know that students who acquire these skills early in life have increased opportunities in an ever competitive job market in the future, as well as opportunities in higher education, the military, and beyond. We also place a high priority on the development of interest in the arts and the performing arts specifically. 3 years ago, we received a $25,000 grant from the Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation in order to purchase instruments and other supplies for our vibrant instrumental music program. During a typical year, our music teacher, Mr. Britt Beck, will see upwards of 300 students each and every day, and teaches classes in instrumental music, as well as a specialized guitar elective, and teaches chorus. We're also a very diverse school for student body. Our students come from our local feeder pattern of feeder elementary schools, which are Roland, Workman, Grove Center, and Manzanita. But we also have several students that enroll with us who do not live in our attendance boundaries or even live outside of our district and apply to attend Traweek via a permit process. We are projected to have an enrollment next year of approximately 770 students, and supporting their learning throughout this year will be 32 highly qualified and uniquely talented faculty members. And now a word about our current status with distance learning. As you've no doubt heard, all secondary schools in Los Angeles County will begin this school year in a distance learning format. Now, this is in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and directives that we've received from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health and Los Angeles County Office of Education. We look forward to when we can safely and legally return to campus, but for the time being, those are the directives that we must abide by. In addition, and I will continue to overemphasize this, even though campus is currently closed, we're still here for you, albeit via voice and email. You can call the office between 7:30 a.m. and 4 p.m. daily, or email an office staff member if you need assistance. I've listed our phone number on this slide, and emails will be coming up in subsequent slides. Next up, a word about the registration process. I hope that there are parents online who may be accessing our website and may want to know more about this. And I'm also assuming that the parents who are watching via this webcast have already gone through the registration process. However, I want to go through just a few more steps so I can clarify. The first step is to log into our ARIES system and to complete an online data confirmation. Once that confirmation is complete, then you will be able to interface with the rest of the ARIES parent portal. We have a link on our school website under distance learning resources that contains a number of resources to assist parents with this process. However, if you experience any difficulties, you can always call our office and one of our helpful office staff members will be there to support you. Next up, a critical component of success in an online learning situation or distance learning is making sure that the technology is ready to go. So the first piece for preparing technology is to ensure that your child's device has been charged. Next, you'll want to make sure that your child can log into their device using either the credentials that are available, the format that are available on our website, or that they can log into their device using the credentials that they've used last year if they're returning students. The next step is to make sure that students can log into their Google account through their Chrome browser in order to make sure that they can access the full set of Google Learning Suites. And of particular importance would be Google Meet, as well as Google Classroom. The next step would be to make sure that you are continually restarting this computer. Now, if you've not used your computer over this past summer break, upon initially starting it this year, you may be prompted to restart the device several times. That's because we do have software updates that are periodically sent out by our technology services at our district office. And in order to install those updates, computers must be open and ready to go. If you're prompted to restart, please do so, as that's a normal part of the process. And then finally, if you'd like additional resources on how to take care of your technology or adequately prepare it for distance learning, you can always refer back to our website for under the distance learning technology checklist area. Now, another key factor of success in a distance learning format is to prepare your home classroom for distance learning. And what I mean by that is, to the best of your ability, if you can provide a quiet, well-lit space for your child to conduct their class learning, That will be incredibly helpful in then benefiting from distance instruction. You also want to make sure that that area has access to an electrical outlet and that your child has brought their computer charger along so that their battery does not drain throughout their instruction in the day and they do not miss instruction. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, it's to reestablish those routines at home to promote healthy learning habits, even though we're on distance learning format. That means ensuring that your child has adequate sleep each night, that you're checking with them at home about their homework, assignments, and other things that are happening at their distance learning phase at school, as well as making sure that they get up and have breakfast and they eat when they're finished with their distance learning sessions. And more on nutrition services in a moment. So, on Monday, August 17th, students will begin their first class for the year. Your students will be able to log into their Google Classes on the morning of August 17th by accessing Google Classroom. Upon logging into Google Classroom, students will be able to join their first class meeting. If your child's new to Covina Valley Unified School District, please make sure that they're able to access Google Classroom during the week. And if you need assistance, the office is here to help you. If we're unable to assist you with a technical issue, then we will forward you on to our district technology folks who should be able to get you all set up. Now, some very important updates for this phase of distance learning. As many of you will recall, we very abruptly shut down our schools on March 13th due to our growing global pandemic and the associated crisis. As such, we had very little time in which we could prepare for distance learning in the spring. Now, we have had a significantly longer period of time over this summer and since March to prepare for this year and this model of hybrid or distance learning as an eventuality. As such, there are some important things to keep in mind. Attendance will be taken each period on a daily basis. So please make sure that your children are logging into class at the appropriate time. More on the schedule in the slide that's coming up. Students will be assigned letter grades for all of their classes. That means that unlike in the spring when it was credit, no credit for participation in our emergency distance learning phase, now that we're in a more robust distance learning phase, your students will be given letter grades at the end of the quarter. Now, another guarantee for this new phase of distance learning is our fall distance learning will be far more interactive than what our students and families experienced in spring of 2020. In other words, we'll go through what the bell schedule for classes looks like in a moment, but students will be interacting both with the teachers as well as with their peers in order to solidify new learning. And we are in the process of adopting a new learning management system called Canvas that will be a powerful tool for our students, parents, and the educators who support them. I'll be sending out other links to videos throughout the year as we transition to this new system. A few of our teachers may be accessing this system with their students on Monday, and so stay tuned for that. But for the vast majority of our teachers, they will be transitioning over to the Canvas learning management system sometime within this first quarter of the year. So now I'd like to introduce you to truly the standout stars, or what I like to call the A-team of superstars that we have here on campus to support your children's learning. And those would be the teachers in our 6th grade team. One key difference from elementary school into secondary school or middle school is that a number of your teachers or your child will have a number of teachers versus just one throughout the day. And so our teachers do specialize in different areas of curriculum, And so I'd like to introduce you to the names of the folks that you will see on your child's schedule once you've accessed it through our parent portal. So the first is Miss Allred. She'll be working with our 6th grade students, a large number of them, on both English and or history. Joining Mrs. Allred in the 6th grade team is Mr. Myers, who will be teaching history and one section of our elective wheel, which is an elective class for 6th graders. Mr. Himanover will be teaching 6th grade math, 6th grade science, as well as a math lab class. Now that's an intensive class designed to support students who may need a bit of extra support to get to grade level or to increase their capacity with their math skills. Following Mr. Himanover, I have listed Mrs. Marriott, who will be teaching science with our kids. Mrs. Lonza will be teaching English as well as our ever popular AVID elective. AVID, for those who are unaware, stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. And it's truly designed as a college preparatory course to introduce students to specific strategies for learning, as well as introduce them to the requirements for attending college eventually. Now, this is a class that is where students must apply in the spring and be accepted into the class for each year. However, just one caveat. If your child applied to be in the AVID class in the 6th grade and was not successful with that application, one exciting feature of our entire district now is that each secondary school in Covina Valley Unified School District does offer the AVID program from 6th grade, moving all the way through 12th grade, or when your kids are seniors in high school. And so there is always a chance for your child to reapply each year as they move through our schools. We also have Mrs. Munoz, who's joining us for math this year. And Mrs. Reineking teaches an advanced math course for students with accelerated skills in math. Next up, we have Mr. Brittbeck joining us, and for 6th graders, he'll be teaching beginning band and intermediate band for some students who may have prior experience with their instruments. Also joining us this year is Mr. Lathrop. He's new to Traweek, and he will be, in addition to teaching his 6th grade elective, which is immersive technology and coding, he'll be also teaching 8th grade math for us. His course, Mr. Lathrop's, is the grant that I had spoken about earlier in previous slides, but he will be working with your children on learning the fundamentals of design in an virtual reality environment. It's a really exciting course, and we cannot wait to see what we can produce with it. Joining Mr. Lathrop in teaching another exploratory class would be Mrs. Vanden Bosch, who will be teaching computer applications, or how your students can use their computers more effectively as a tool for learning. Now, if your child has an individual education plan or receives special education, they may have an SAI teacher on their roster. SAI stands for Specialized Academic Instruction. So joining us for SAI English is Mrs. Koshkabarier, or as many call her, Mrs. K. We have Mr. Ulrich, who will be teaching SAI Math, and Mr. Bucola, who will be teaching SAI History and a Study Skills elective. Mrs. Montoya will be teaching SAI Math and Science. Forgive me, there's a typo there, but it will be SAI Math and Science. And Mrs. Bogle will be teaching English language development for our students who still may be learning the English language as they move through our school. Next up, this is the B team, of which I'm a member of. The B team, in that we support our teachers and our students from primarily behind the scenes when we're not popping into classes and interacting with everyone, to make sure that you have a smooth year this year, even though we're in a new format. So speaking now, I'm Dr. Kodama, and I have the privilege of being the principal. The next member of our support staff would be Mr. Estrada, who is my assistant principal. Joining us is Miss Rojas, who is our counselor. So for our new sixth grade parents, or those that are just coming in from an elementary school, school counselor will be very different than the mental health counselors that your child may have worked with when they were in elementary school. They do some of the same work in terms of working with students through emotional difficulties or setting up small groups of students so that they can interact around common interest or in the need to develop a skill. But her primary role is really to work with your students to build their academic plans and to help us in monitoring their academic achievement and even in aspects of designing our master schedule of classes each year. And so you will each and every one will be interacting with Mrs. Rojas at some point while your child's at Traweek. Now, below Mrs. Rojas, we've listed Mr. Avalar, who's our school psychologist. Mr. Avalar primarily works with students who are receiving special education or have an individualized education plan. And so he'll be working with a number of our families this year through the IEP process. Below Mr. Avalar is Miss Palomino, who works for the Nutrition Services Department as our cafeteria manager. When we're back on campus and when it's safe and legal to do so, Mrs. Palomino does an amazing job of serving up approximately 800 breakfasts and lunch each day, and does a great job of working with her staff to make sure that your children are greeted with a smile and are given a nutritious meal a few times a day. She may be contacting you at some point throughout the year if there are any issues around nutrition services or if she needs support from parents in a number of different ways. She's a fantastic asset to our campus, and I look forward to when you can all meet her. Next up is Mrs. Besh. She's our school secretary, and so she may answer the phone when you call, or she may be helping you at the window, or just a whole long laundry list of different discrete tasks that she helps support the learning on campus with. Below Mrs. Besh, we have Mrs. Saavedra, who is our licensed vocational nurse who works in our Traweek office. So if your children have any medical needs, or perhaps they will need a Band-Aid when we're back on campus and they've scraped their knee in PE, you will receive a call from Mrs. Saavedra. But she's always here to help, and she's a great asset to our support team. Beneath Mrs. Saavedra, we have Mrs. Villas, who is our attendance clerk at Traweek. So if there are issues or questions regarding attendance, you may receive communication from Mrs. Villas. And finally, but last but definitely not least, we have Mrs. Shaw. Mrs. Shaw is our office clerk, and she assists in all aspects of our office operation. She's typically the staff member who will greet parents when they come through the door, when we're open for visitors. And she's tremendously helpful in directing parents to resources. And we're very pleased that she'll be joining us again this year. So moving along, I want to give words of advice in terms of contacting our teachers for support or for general communication during our phase of distance learning. Most teachers will not be on campus for their instruction, and so I'm recommending all parents to use email to communicate with teachers during this distance learning phase. Teachers will be getting back to you within 24 to no later than 48 hours. They will be experiencing a high volume of emails, particularly in the beginning phases of the year. But please feel free to let the office know if you've sent over an email after about 24 to 48 hours if you've not received a response, and we'll see what we can do to help you with some type of follow-up information. A directory of teacher email addresses can be found on our website, and I would encourage you to explore that in order to access a teacher's email address. Now, for this year and during our distance learning phase, all of our parent meetings will be held in a virtual format or on the Google Meets platform. And so look forward to those invitations for other follow-up meetings for all of our parents. And of course, for more information regarding a virtual back-to-school night. I'll be releasing that in the next few days, and that will be coming up fairly quickly. So we're looking at sometime in the beginning of September. Okay, so the inevitable question is, what does this schedule look like? And so here we go. Students will rotate through 6 periods of instruction that will include English, math, science, history, PE, and one elective or a course of their choice throughout the day during distance learning. Each class period will last for 41 minutes, and students have approximately 5-minute passing periods. And in this case, unlike a traditional passing period where a student needs to move from room to room, I would recommend that they step away for those your kids step away from their screens for those 5 minutes, take a stretch, go to the kitchen and get a snack, take care of other physical needs so they can be back and ready to learn for the next period. Your child's class schedule can currently be reviewed on our parent portal. If you are one of the very few parents who has not completed data confirmation yet, you will not be able to access that schedule until data confirmation is complete. So please make sure that you take care of that if you have not already. Now, the next issue to discuss would be the differences in grade reporting. Now, while your child attends an elementary school, if they attended elementary school in Covina Valley Unified Schools, then you will remember accessing the parent portal to look at trimester grades. So that would be 3 times through the year to take a look at those reports to see how your child is doing in their classes. In secondary, so starting in middle school and moving through high school, we're on a very different system. Now, there are 2 things that will be critical for you to understand. The first would be when those reports are coming out on the parent portal, as well as the difference between our permanent grades or the grades at the semester, which come out at the 18th and 36th week of each year, and those quarterly grades that are kind of in between. So you'll receive a progress report on the 9th week and the 27th week. Now, the major difference between these 2 different marks are that the quarterly grade at the 9th week is not your child's permanent grade. It is a progress report so that you're aware of how your child's been doing in their classes for the first 9 weeks of school. The grade that will be placed on their permanent record or transcript will arrive by the 18th week of school or at the end of the first semester. Then once again, about 9 more weeks will pass and your child will receive another progress report. So as I mentioned earlier, those progress reports do not go on a child's permanent record or transcript. However, the final grade at the end of the year will. And so look forward to those progress reports coming out, as well as those semester reports, which are critical for our kids so that they can have a nice strong GPA through their time at Traweek. Now, another word on grading. We will be working with letter grades rather than the standards mastery report cards that I believe you're all familiar with in our elementary schools. And our students are expected to learn at their grade level standards to their highest ability. Grades reflect learning as well as mastery of their grade. So now I'd like to turn towards our school-wide instructional focus. About 4 years ago, a group of faculty sat down in a staff meeting. We spoke with parents, we spoke with students, and then we took a look at the research when we were determining what our school-wide instructional focus would be. And so our focus, we determined, was something that we could use throughout every discipline, whether it was English, math, science, PE, or an elective, or that would benefit kids going into their future. Now, the research suggests that not only is writing a key or a critical skill for kids to develop in high school, but that also transfers over into college and into the world of work. And so we decided to give our kids a head start in life. We would focus on writing at Traweek. And so you'll hear more about our school-wide instructional focus, but during back to school night and in other parent meetings. But do expect that your children will have periodic writing assignments in order for us to assess the success that we've been having with our writing strategies and structures in our classes, both in person and in virtual or distance learning. Now, we're also very proud to offer several unique programs for our sixth graders. At Traweek, we have the WEB, or Where Everybody Belongs program, in which our students are paired with eighth grade mentors in order to learn more about life in middle school and life on a middle school campus. That relationship starts prior to the beginning of school, and throughout the course of a sixth grader's first year on campus, they have those eighth grade mentors assigned so that they can interact, they can ask questions, and also before the first day of school that our sixth graders step onto campus, they already know somebody who's not an adult. Now, during our distance learning phase, if you are a currently registered sixth grade student at Traweek, you may have sent your child to our virtual onboarding and our virtual sixth grade orientations with our web leaders. So I'd like to thank you for that. It was quite an experiment to do this virtually, but the feedback that I'm hearing from our two advisors, so that would be from Mrs. Warshaw as well as Ms. Smikle, that it was a great experience for all. Our eighth graders enjoyed their time in cyberspace meeting with your students, and they're really looking forward to getting back to campus now so they could resume their fun and their relationship in person rather than through a screen. Now, we also offer the AVID program, which I've described before, but that has been a recent addition to Traweek. We've been with the AVID program now for 4 years, and it just continues to grow. And so again, if your child is interested in AVID but was not placed in an AVID class this year, I would strongly encourage you to have your child apply for the 7th grade or even into the 8th grade. We do have technology-equipped classrooms across campus with things like the Lightspeed system, which amplifies a teacher's voice for clarity. And some of our teachers will be teaching from their classrooms during this phase of distance learning. So your children may hear a bit about that if their teacher decides to talk about some of the available technology. We also offer each and every one of our students a one-to-one device. And so currently our kids are working with Lenovo laptops that are that have a full suite of Windows 10 as their operating platforms. We have a fully developed GATE and honors program that your children can participate in through the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade year. And as I previously mentioned, we have a science, technology, engineering, arts, and math focused elective wheel for students who are not in AVID, an intervention, or in a music class for their elective. And so that STEAM focused wheel will move through Mr. Myers, who will be teaching geography supplemented with Python computer coding. Next to Mr. Myers will be Mrs. Vandenbosch, who will be teaching students how to interact and operate with various apps on their computers as productivity and learning tools. And finally, we have our virtual or augmented reality immersive technology elective that's taught by Mr. Lathrop. Students that have elective or exploratory wheel on their schedule will be rotating at the trimester. And so keep an eye out on the parent portal for when those classes will change. And we're really looking forward to what our kids are going to learn in those exploratories. Now, all 6th graders at Traweek, as I've mentioned before, have Common Core English, Common Core Math, Social Science, Science, Physical Education, and an elective class daily through the distance learning model, as well as either a hybrid learning model or when we can eventually safely and legally return to on-campus instruction. Now, one caveat for our honors courses. Placement in our honors level courses is determined using multiple measures. And so that would mean uh, previous grades, previous classroom assessments or teacher generated assessments or district made or provided benchmark assessments, as well as standardized test scores through our state testing system and teacher recommendations. We take a balanced approach, and we want to make sure that students who are in a class that's designated as honors are ready for both the pace and the level of rigor that they'll be experiencing in that program. It does have a much faster pace, and they tend to go in a lot more depth with their instruction. And so if you have questions about our honors courses or pathways, you can always reach out to our counselor and she'll be happy to explain more about those processes. Now, we will also offer physical education. And I've left this slide in because in our on-campus instruction, we focus on fitness and wellness, movement and skill knowledge, as well as social development and overall group interactions. Now, we'll be able to meet most of those metrics or goals throughout our distance learning phase, albeit it will be through a very different program. So our PE teachers have been working hard over this summer to work collaboratively to design learning experiences that will closely approximate what your kids would experience if they were on campus. But we all know that there's no true substitute for all that on-campus learning encompasses. But know that your children will have a PE class that will also include some things about health and wellness, nutrition, those types of things, but will also still have a physical movement component. All right, moving on. So this slide is truly most appropriate when our children are back on campus in some form or fashion. But in our traditional model of schooling, your children will be assigned a PE locker. And one of the critical key skills for our students to master prior to returning to campus, and I'm hopeful at some point throughout this year, is for them to learn how to use an old-fashioned combination lock with a dial. Having worked with middle school students for quite a significant portion of time, I've been a public school educator now for the past, I'm entering my 29th year. I can tell you that this is it's consistent theme that it is a major stumbling block for some of our sixth graders that really struggle with operating that lock. So if you want to get ahead prior to returning to campus, I would suggest that you locate a combination lock with a spinning dial and teach your kids how to open those combination locks. Now, when they do return to campus, we will be issuing a lock for them, but extra practice at home will always help. All right. And then, of course, when we return to campus and you have your PE clothes, we ask our kids to take their PE clothes home on Fridays to be washed and ready for Monday. However, I do know that a number of parents like to purchase at least 2 sets to cut down on the washing time. And if you do so, our PE teachers absolutely appreciate it. All right. So now more about our sixth grade elective options. As I mentioned earlier, we do have beginning band, and that's for students who want to play a band instrument, wood, brass, percussion, those types of things. Then they can enter beginning band with no experience required. And our intermediate band is for students with prior musical experience who also received a recommendation from their music teacher or instructor from the year before. In some cases, our music teacher will also ask kids to audition to see if they're ready for something as challenging as advanced band. But we do have sixth graders who do come in and already have built up quite a bank of musical practice and who are ready to join that advanced band even from the early age of 11. I've mentioned before, but we have two AVID classes on our schedule for sixth graders this year. And the AVID program, again, I would recommend that your kids continue to apply if they were not selected for AVID this year, as there will be multiple opportunities both here at Traweek and at Covina High School through their high school years. And as I mentioned once before, we do have our elective wheel, which is a rotation of courses throughout the year that will include Introduction to Immersive Technology and Computer Coding, Computer Applications, and Geography supplemented with the computer coding language, Python. So for academic supports, when we have on-campus physical instruction, Traweek has always offered tutoring supports after school in our LMC on at least 3 days per week, usually from the hours of 3 to 4 p.m., that's staffed by at least one credentialed teacher as well as an instructional aide. And you do not need, when we return to campus, you will not need to apply for that program or register. Your kids can simply go to our Library Media Center at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, make sure that they sign in, and then they can access additional supports after school. We've also been fortunate in that we've received additional supports being directly across the street from Covina High School, where a number of our students will go to Covina High School for extended tutoring hours that takes place in their Library Media Center with another credentialed teacher. And those hours are typically 4 to 6 p.m. and the same as our days per week, 3 to 4, dependent upon the year. When those plans are in place and we are ready to return to full campus occupation for our learning, we'll make sure that we share that out with all of our parents so you'll know that that's available to you. Now, while we're on distance learning, we will continue to reach out and we will continue to have student success team meetings. And we may even develop individual learning plans or intervention plans for students who might be struggling either with the format of distance learning or globally struggling with learning for a whole variety of reasons at this time. And so often our counselor will reach out to you, but if you have a specific or particular concern, you can reach out to an administrator, either myself, Mr. Estrada, or to Ms. Rojas directly as our counselor in order to discuss those options for academic student support this year. All right, and so now I'd like to take a moment to go over Traweek's school-wide student norms, and these apply even while we're on a distance learning phase. And so the first is that our students are punctual. We truly want all of our students in class at the very beginning and for every available moment of instruction, because we want more time to interact with our kids to teach them the content that our teachers have prepared for them. We also want our students to come to class prepared. That's both while we're on campus or at a distance learning phase. We need appropriate conduct from all students to minimize distractions and to help us with our fourth norm, which is to keep a productive learning environment at all times. Preparation for learning is truly preparation for life. And if we instill these values and norms with our kids while they're as young as 11, those habits will continue to stick with them throughout high school, college, career, and beyond. And so a bit more on our norms. So truly, to be on time, it's all about expectations. Our teachers will hold high expectations that your kids will be logging into their classes at their designated time each and every day. We realize that there will be, particularly in these first couple of weeks, there may be tech issues or other things that are really stumbling blocks or barriers to achieving that goal. But as soon as we're able to resolve those, we really are optimistic that our kids will benefit from the routine of being in class on time every day. Next up, I want to talk a bit about preparation. Now, once you've established your home classroom environment for your kids to access their learning, we want to make sure that they have brought with them each and every day both their textbooks and a charged laptop. I've mentioned in a previous slide, We want to make sure that our students' laptop batteries do not give out prior to the end of instruction. Now, if you have multiple students in your home that are working through distance learning, or if you're a parent who's working from home during this phase of time, you may want to give your child access to earbuds so that they'll be able to listen intently to what's going on and not be a distraction to other learners in your house. And then, of course, any of the traditional implements that we use, and this will vary by teacher and course, you may want to have pencils, pens, or paper handy, although that may be minimized during distance learning this year because the majority of work will be happening on our computer screens. Next up would be that we expect our Titans to display appropriate conduct. And really, those can be summed up best with, is the behavior safe, respectful, and responsible? And so that really encompasses everything, but I do want to highlight a few additional pieces. We need our students to always demonstrate their best effort. We know that particularly during distance learning, some tasks may be harder than others, but we're truly asking our kids to do their very best, and then we'll work with any situations that come up along the way if we can alleviate any complications that happen during this distance learning phase. Of course, with teachers, it's always the best advice to follow directions as given, and then finally, to demonstrate honesty and integrity, to always tell the truth with their teachers, and to make sure that they're not using Google as their homework partner or looking for answers on assessments when those are given. And then finally, that our students maintain a productive learning environment. Now, that means that even during distance learning, they're not on their cell phones, they're not using their cell phones during that instruction, and that they're following the teacher's code of online conduct or the teacher's norms that will be shared during the first week of instruction. If there are issues with any of our following up with norms, first, teachers may be contacting you via a voice call or an email. And if that's unsuccessful, you may receive a call from an administrator or a member of the B team so that we can help your child get back on track with their learning. Now, next up, I'd like to talk to you a bit about our activities on campus. And although due to COVID-19, many or most of these activities have been suspended, we truly look forward to returning to our campus and our traditions when we resume a more traditional schedule. Just as an aside, I can remember a number of lessons with disappointments when I was much younger. A lesson that I learned from my grandfather, which was, okay, well, that happened. Now let's talk about something we can look forward to once that issue is resolved. He taught me from a very young age to one key to being optimistic is to always be intentional in having something to look forward to. And if your child is like mine, my son, who's entering seventh grade in a different school system this year, was incredibly disappointed that he wouldn't be returning to his school for the beginning phase of this year because really he missed things like participating in after school sports or time spent with his friends during lunch or even passing periods. And I had to sit down and really be intentional in talking to him about what he looks forward to most when he gets to return to campus and kind of drafting that as a plan. So for our parents, I'm sharing this with you, and even though we will not be able to complete a number of these activities until it's been deemed both safe and legal to do so, so that if you need to, you can have a similar conversation about all of the great things that are awaiting your kids when they do get to return to, or when they do get to attend Traweek physically rather than at a distance. So first off, I'd like to tell you about our Renaissance program, where we celebrate the achievements of our students in the classroom, and some for character development and others for raising their GPAs. Twice a year, we have both a winter or a fall and a spring Renaissance rally. They're a lot of fun. They're designed by our Traweek Leadership Council, or are traditionally called an ASB, so that we can have a rally to celebrate our success and to inspire all of our students to keep working hard in class. And so I truly look forward to a time when we can all be together again to celebrate our kids. We also have the Where Everyone Belongs program. I spoke about that in previous slides, but we're really looking forward to when we can have our 8th graders and 6th graders interact on campus during lunch and for some of our traditional activities like our early fall monster challenge, which we'll see if we'll be able to do something like that along the way throughout this year. We also, in a typical year, have a robotics team that travels into a league in the high desert and does very well. So if your child is interested in not just coding, but also building and engineering, I would recommend that they speak with Miss Warshaw about what it would take to be a member of our robotics team. And then, of course, we have the Femineers program. We're particularly proud of this program, even though it's not a class. It's an after-school activity and a weekend group that gets together here on campus. But the Femineers is really a program designed exclusively for young ladies so that they can come in and learn more about what it takes and explore the role of being an engineer. And it's an innovative program that we've partnered with Cal Poly Pomona in order to bring that to Traweek. And it's been so successful that program last year was even awarded the California Golden Bell Award from the California School Boards Association. It was quite an honor and distinction for our humble little program that's grown from the beginning with about 25 students 4 years ago into now we've seen those numbers at least double throughout the last few years. And it's incredibly exciting for the students that participate and that they also attend Femineers Summit at Cal Poly Pomona, and they get to interact with female innovators and leaders in science, technology, engineering, and math, so that they can be inspired to move on and become engineers eventually. Now, in a regular year, when we are able, we also have a full after-school sports program. We are part of a middle school league, and we feature flag football, basketball, volleyball, track and field, and cross country. And so we eagerly anticipate more word on when we will be able to resume those activities. For those of you who are familiar with the Traweek family, we also have a harvest festival sometime around Halloween each year. I do not expect that we will be able to continue with that tradition this year, but look forward to it. I'm hoping for your child's 7th and 8th grade year. We also have a television journalism class. It will not be meeting this year. However, in years going forward, we will have our own Traweek television broadcast that we often post on YouTube for parents to access for things like bulletin announcements, but also original pieces and skits and interviews that members of that class will generate for us to get the good word out about all of the great things that are happening on campus. Now, this year, we've temporarily suspended all of our overnight science camps, but Traweek Titans, when they're in the 6th grade, may attend the Pali Institute 3-day overnight camp to learn more about earth science and leadership development. And that aligns with our curriculum frameworks for 6th grade science. Again, aligned with our 7th grade science, where that main curriculum component is life sciences. We take our students to Catalina Island, to the Catalina Island Marine Institute for 3 days, where they interact with life on the island, as well as a number of labs in one of the most beautiful areas to learn in a real context more about life sciences just here locally in Southern California. And then finally, in our typical year, our 8th grade students in Astro Camp in Idlewild, where they learn more about physics. And as you've guessed, that follows the same trend and pattern with our curriculum frameworks. 8th graders learn about physical science, So we take them to Astro Camp so they can have hands-on experiential learning that really helps them to ground those abstract concepts introduced in a classroom. This time it's hands-on science, and it's a lot of fun. We can't wait until we can resume that tradition. I'll go through this list rather quickly, but we also, when we are on campus, have a Titan of the Month celebration. We have an active garden club. We have a lunchtime club that gets together called Girls Who Code, and that would be a group of young ladies who like to do computer coding. We feature a college week each year so that we can continue to build that vision that all students will be equipped so that they have opportunities to move on to a four-year university when they leave Covina Valley Unified Schools. We have a reading club that also will work with our reading competition that in a normal year would take place sometime in mid-spring. We have a traditional spelling bee that's sponsored or affiliated with the Scripps Institute. 2 years ago, we actually sent a finalist to Washington, D.C. to participate in the National Spelling Bee. We were incredibly proud of him, and I feel very good that we will have another sixth grader, that perhaps it will be your sixth grade child if they participate in the spelling bee, who may have an opportunity to travel all the way to the big stage in Washington, D.C. We have our Monster Challenge event that I've spoken to in the last slide, as well as Saturday academies that are not just for students who need to make up absences, but when we are able, we hold Saturday academies to introduce students to a number of different innovative learning tasks, or where we may have a day that's devoted to either chorus or drama or into more technical skills like computer coding. We have a traditional Veterans Day celebration that's supported by our local chapter of the American Legion, where we honor our local heroes who served the United States military, both during eras of conflict or domestic service. We have a wonderful group of veterans who come out and spend the day with our students after we're finished celebrating them and share their oral histories. And we have veterans who span from the Korean conflict all the way up to more recent service in our armed forces. It's truly a special day. We'll miss it this year, but we're looking forward to hopefully having that tradition come back in full force for next year, or the 2021-2022 school year. And of course, I've mentioned earlier that you can expect more communication from me in regards to our back to school night. And if needed, we will hold a virtual showcase or open house event this spring. So as you can probably determine from this presentation, there are always a lot of things going on in schools. So one of the most critical roles of our sixth grader incoming parents would be to stay informed. So I've listed a few resources for you here on this page of our presentation. The first at Traweek_Titans is our new Instagram page. We found that a number of our parents are accessing Instagram, and so we want to communicate with you via that platform. So if you're an Instagram user, you may add us at Traweek_Titans. Another large segment of our parent population likes to interface with Twitter. And so our Twitter handle is at Traweek_MS. And so if you log on there, you'll, particularly when we get back to campus, you will see some of the great things that are happening across campus via those postings. We also have Covina Valley Unified School District app that can be found on both the Apple Store and the Google Play Store or the Android Store. And if you go to that, if you go to either of those software stores, you can download our app. Just search C-VUSD. And once there, you'll be able to access your Aries account, things in relation to nutrition services like menus. Also our Peach Star flyers, which are digital flyers that are sent out so that we can both do something great for the environment, but also deliver flyers to families that can be accessed via their smartphones or other electronic devices. You can also find more general information like bell schedules, calendars of events, contact information for any of our staff members, more information about state testing, and even more. So I would strongly encourage all of our parents to take a moment and download that. And next up, I'd like to talk to you more about parent involvement, or our PI program, or Parents or Partners in Education. So this year we have had to scale back significantly due to our current health restrictions, but we will still be conducting meetings via an online format for our PTSA, our school site council, our English language advisory council committee, and if we are able, we'll hold virtual parent workshops, as well as virtual parent-teacher meetings, things like individual learning plans, teacher-parent conferences, IEPs, and SST meetings, or student success team meetings, via a virtual format. At Traweek, we recognize and honor that a child's first and most consistent teacher throughout life is their parent. And so when the classroom teacher and parents can work in collaboration, then we really have a multiplier effect in the benefits that it provides to our kids or our students. And so we look forward to establishing a relationship with our parents going forward that will be not just a 3-year, but for those of you who even attend Covina High School directly across the street from us, it could be a 7-year relationship in that we will still be interacting with your kids for the next 7 years, at least those who will continue on with us over at Covina High School. And just as an aside, many of the students who've attended Traweek do come back quite frequently just to check in on all of us, a support team in the office, as well as to visit some of their teachers after school and whenever the time is appropriate. But it's always nice to see our kids go across, and it's always great to establish strong working relationships with our parents soon, so that we can continue that potentially 7-year relationship in a great way where we can all mutually support our students or kids. Now, one more key piece of information, and I know that the parents who went through their online registration through that text or email or phone blast or website messaging that we had sent out earlier this summer, we encouraged everyone to join our PTSA. Now, you can do that even though we're in a virtual setting. If you selected the link in any of the documents that I've previously mentioned, then for PTSA, you'd be taken to a website with something called the Totem System. And that is a touchless way for you to join our PTSA and to use a debit or credit card to pay your $7 membership so you can be a proud member of our Titan PTA. Last year, we had approximately 550 or closer to 600 parent members of our PTSA. And so even though we're at a distance, we're hoping that you will choose to join our PTA to support us, because although we may not have a lot of activities that require volunteers, our PTSA has been absolutely amazing over the years in providing supports to our academic program, our elective programs, and tons of extracurriculars, things like supporting us during after-school sports, or funding for parent workshops, or our teacher appreciation events, our 8th grade breakfasts, Red Ribbon Week, and the list goes on and on and on. And if you join PTSA, just one note of clarification for our elementary parents, the S in this stands for students, which will be a feature of PTAs going forward through high school. We do have active student members as well. So you could also purchase a membership for your child as an active PTA member. But at any rate, if you do choose to join, it is not required that you are a volunteer on campus. We can always use extra support when we return to a physical model of instruction. However, we can only do so when that is both safe and legal to proceed. But we are hopeful that parents will become more connected with each other by joining our PTA and attending some of our virtual meetings this year. So moving on. Some very important information for you for email follow-ups. And we can direct you to folks or help you directly with any questions or concerns that may arise. So speaking now is me, Dr. Kodama, and I oversee the comprehensive program here at Traweek. And so you can email me with just about any questions. And if I do not have the answer directly at hand, I will make sure that your email goes to the appropriate staff member or faculty member who can help you with that issue. Joining the administrative team, of course, I've introduced to before, is Mr. Estrada, but specifically if you have questions in relation to attendance and some aspects of curriculum, you can reach out to him directly. We have Ms. Rojas, who will be working with our kids during this first phase of the year, primarily on balancing schedules before she starts working more on the social emotional learning needs. But if there is a scheduling question or a question about an elective or class, you can always start with emailing Ms. Rojas. Mr. Avalar is our school psychologist, and questions around our individual education plans can be resolved through contacting Mr. Avalar. We have our school nurse, Miss Saavedra, and she can be reached at the email here, but that would be if there are any health concerns or other issues that come up along the way where your child might need, your child might be taking medications through the school day when we return to a physical campus, then you can always reach out and communicate with Ms. Saavedra directly. Mrs. Besh is our school secretary, and she will be a great person to email with other general questions, and she will forward those on to folks if she cannot help you directly. We have Mrs. Villas, and so you can email any attendance issues that arise directly to her, and she will be happy to oblige and assist you. And finally, we have Mrs. Shaw. She is our clerk in the office, and she can answer a number of questions. And if she's unable to arrive at an answer or provide you with direct supports, she'll make sure that the person who can is looped in, and so they can provide you direct supports. Okay, and finally, before I sign off here for our meeting, I really want to thank you for taking time to log in and access this meeting. And I appreciate the patience of our 6th grade parents who attended Wednesday and may have been waiting for that original web meeting, the recording of that web meeting to be posted to our website. As I explained before, we did have some technical issues with that recording, and so I have gone through this step of re-recording. I look forward to an amazing year, as well as looking forward to your emails, and we can begin our relationship at a distance. And hopefully we'll have a chance later on, not too late, but later on this year, to return to our campus in some manner that is both safe and when we are allowed to do so. So once again, thank you so much. Even though we're starting at a distance, we're still here for you, and we'll be there for you throughout this year. Thank you very much. I hope you have a wonderful day.